Hello, this is Jasmine here with January's Sketchbox, and this is the artist. I'm so excited because this barn owl is so cute and I can't wait to see what's inside. I want to make the videos a bit shorter, so I'm gonna try and swatch everything out real quick, give you my first impressions, and then get into the actual art. Right away, I think I'm seeing ink. Abstract acrylic ink. That is a really, really pretty color. I'm assuming you need to shake it. And hopefully they gave us a paintbrush. I'm sure they did. It feels like it has, yeah, it's got an eyedropper. I like that. Our paper is Sketchbox Italia DS, 100% cotton 140 pad of 10 sheets, cold pressed. So it's watercolor paper and it feels very nice. Again, I'm going to do the swatches in here just so that I don't waste any of this paper, since there are only 10 sheets and it's very nice. We have what's inside and we have the artist. There's your info. We have a cute little Sketchbox little palette. It even says Sketchbox. That's adorable. This palette feels nicer than the dollar store palettes that look about the same. But in my experience, ink is going to stain the crud out of this. Okay, so we do have a paintbrush, so I can test this stuff out right away. This is a Faux Squirrel 1827 dagger brush. That's really cool that it's Faux Squirrel, because I'm not fond of the real hair brushes. Alright, let's test this ink. Let's see, this is acrylic ink, so is it waterproof? Acrylic inks offering great opacity and luminous colors for a wide range of techniques. This ink is perfectly light, fast, and permanent. It can be used with all types of tools such as dip pens, markers, airbrush, or brushes. Shake the bottle before using. So we're just going to have to test and see if it's waterproof. Wow, that is really pretty. It's got an interesting texture too. That must be the acrylic part. It feels thicker than other ink that I've used, although I have mostly used ink in a watered down format. I'm curious if I can mix it with water. Okay, that's what I'm more used to. That is very pretty. It's like a turquoise or like a peacock blue. And the brush is also very nice. Nice thin lines, nice broad strokes. There's a lot of control in here, and it's also holding a lot of water, which is nice. It looks like you can still blend fairly well if the paint, at least if the paint is not fully dried. Like this up here was not completely dry, and I managed to blend out the edges. This ink actually matches the Sketchbox tissue paper really well. Oh, here's our little Sketchbox sticker. Got a little bit dented, but it's still cute. It looks like it's a little jar of, I'm assuming, ink. So it feels a lot like a micron, but like a little bit of a juicier micron, which I really like, but hopefully it's as water resistant as we want it to be for working with inks. We have a Finetech Graphite 0043H, so a really hard lead pencil. I don't generally like hard lead pencils, but I also usually just use a mechanical pencil, but it's a pencil. Not too much to say about that. And I believe this is our final item, and it is Calligraphy ink. Okay, so it's more ink. It's in yellow. It's like opaque looking. It's Speedball brand, which I have used Speedball ink before. I did that in an old Inktober. Primrose yellow. Let's give it a shot. Oh no, this is gonna be messy. Hold on. At least it's yellow. Okay, I managed to get through that without too much mess. What this really looks like to me is, it reminds me of model paints. So like the consistency and stuff reminds me of like Warhammer paints, which is interesting. This is a very nice bright yellow. I love the way it looks with this turquoise kind of blue. Although this is a very limited color palette, I'm curious what I'm going to be able to do with it. Let's try the yellow with a little bit of water. It's almost just as bright watered down, but it goes a lot farther. Let's add a little more water. My poor water brushes get abused for this. Okay, here we're getting a much lighter color that I believe I could drop some of this into. Yeah, and make a nice gradient. It's got a couple little fibers coming up. I don't think that's the paper. I think that's pigment that I didn't get fully shaken in. So these are beautiful. These inks dried really fast, but I still gave them a few extra moments. And now I'm going to test and see what might be waterproof. This might be fuzzing a little bit. I didn't wait an extremely long time. Okay, there we go. This acrylic stuff is lifting a tiny bit. Again, it might not if it was left for a really long time. And by a really long time, I mean like several hours, because I only let it stay for maybe 10 minutes. In my experience, Speedball ink does not ever lift. But that was Speedball black ink. This, however, does not appear to be lifting at all. Okay, let's go in now on the Pentel pen. Said it's water resistant. Okay, we're definitely seeing some lifting here, which isn't going to be great with the yellow especially, or any lighter tints. Okay, so I'm going to jump right in and do some sketching, thumbnailing, just figure out what it is I want to do, and then I'll get back with an actual illustration. I thought about it for a while, and I decided based on my two colors that I think I'm going to go to my comfort zone, and I'm going to draw a dragon because I can get a nice green with these, and then maybe kind of a, not necessarily iridescent, but feathery kind of green, blue, yellow, tropical look. So my go-to dragon is just like ye old stereotypical dragon, and usually a side view. Got a swooping neck. Got lots of spines and two swooping horns. But I might go with something a little different, just because this is such a stereotypical dragon, and I was thinking I might want to work with feathers. So Usually when I do a feathered dragon, I make the face much more sloping instead of having a hard brow, just to add to the bird-like look. And I might give it, say, feathers on the chin. Keep the mouth here, but this is like almost a beaked look. And then instead of spines like that, just give it a big crest. This is definitely giving more of like a celestial goodly dragon look than this guy that looks like a stereotypical bad dragon. And I really like the idea of feathered dragons too. I think they're really cool. But I might go with a slightly more dynamic angle. Although I do like the way these feather crests are. Let's see. Give him some scales too though, because I mean, I'm not going for a fully feathered look. I really like a mix. And I think that this could be really cool. I gotta admit, I'm not super fond of this pencil. It's a 3H pencil, and the main reason I'm not fond of it is because I'm not fond of harder lead pencils. About as hard of a lead as I want is a mechanical pencil, which I think is, I don't know, a 2H usually, which is still a little on the harder side, but they usually feel smoother. This one feels, you know how you have pencils sometimes and you draw on them and they don't feel smooth, they feel like they're catching the paper, like crunchy. I don't know exactly how to explain it, but this one's doing that a lot and I'm not super fond of that. Okay, so I'm going to work with some colors concept in a minute. I just want to get another angle down for this face. Like if it was more front view, what would it look like? This is sort of more of a 3/4 view. Oh, I don't have an eraser. Okay, I'll have to keep that in mind. I'll probably bring out an eraser, even though I know one didn't come with the box, because I erase a lot. Let's see. Give him some teeth. This looks pretty silly without me being able to fix the anatomy as I go, but that's okay. I'm trying to be a little more talkative as I work because I find myself quite often when I'm sketching, I'll have big long pauses where I hardly talk because I just find it a little difficult to sketch and talk at the same time. I'll just be like, and and then when I'm done with the sketching part, I'll finish whatever it was I was gonna say. So I'm trying to be a little more conscious of that. I don't think I'm gonna go with the 3/4 view, although I like this. I really like the strong, imposing silhouette of this. It reminds me a lot of Todd Lockwood's Silver Dragon in the 3.0, 3.5 monster manuals. D&D. Not that this one isn't imposing at all, it doesn't have the same vibe to me. But what I wanted to do is see if I was going to include the wings, what color I might make them. I'm going to give a claw here, but then I'm going to have a bunch of feathers. And I'm going to try and keep this piece fairly loose, even the finished piece, because I don't want to get too caught up into it. I'm bringing in my eraser, just for a little bit of cleanup. I mean, that is the nice thing about hard lead, is that it's easy to clean up. Have like a little bit of a definition for the top of the nose there. Okay, so I don't want to go too much further into this without trying out some color. I'm so nervous because it didn't come with an eyedropper. Ooh, not too bad. Well, that wasn't nearly as messy as I expected. Like every time, I know I've done it before, but every time I expect it to be insanely messy. I think I overfilled these way more than necessary, but look at the pretty colors. This one is supposed to be green, and I'm not sure if that'll come through when I mix it up. I might have to put some more yellow into it. The blue is just very overpowering. Oh, that's pretty green. It's more green on in real life than it is on the camera. It's doing this strange thing where it's not really mixing much. Like, look at that. There's definitively two tones. Oh, you can't see. So you can see that there's definitely two tones here. And that's really interesting. Like, look. That's so weird. I mean, I feel like I could do something cool with that, though. Okay, let's mix this one up. It's doing the same thing, but it's going to have more yellow. I mean, that could be a really cool effect. We'll see how it turns out, huh? Please don't spill. Please. Okay. So I'm just gonna dive in and throw some colors on here and see what I think. I definitely want to go green for the main base of the dragon, I think. I don't know if these inks are going to be anything like the inks that I used before. I've only ever used like real inks, like from a bottle like this once, and it was black ink, and it didn't do this weird separating thing. And I'm thinking that these are going to react really similar, which means that it's going to be permanent. I mean, because I did the test, so it should be permanent, and then I can go over it with lighter colors. That's my hope. So what I'm doing is I'm laying down kind of splotchy, shadowy kind of stuff, and then I'll go over it with the lighter, more yellowy tinted color. There's a hair. Oh no, that didn't work. It's kind of nerve-wracking working with something so permanent, and I'm also curious if it's soaking through. I hope not. I mean, it's fine if it soaks through to the next paper, but I don't really want it to soak all the way through multiple papers. Okay, we're good. So the feathers, maybe... Okay, birds have two-toned feathers a lot, and I'm thinking blue at the tips, and then yellow at the base. I want a really stark difference between the blue and the yellow, so I'm going to wait for that to dry. Maybe blue eye. I like to give dragons kind of small eyes. Make them look beady and, I don't know, old and wise. I thought this was going to be like I was really not going to like working with only these two colors, but so far I really like this. This is really cool. Yeah, I definitely like the way that this is turning out. This is basically how I worked with black ink. So I went in and did some base shading kind of stuff, and then I basically worked my way darker while preserving the highlights. Let's try this on this guy. I didn't really shape this guy's scales at all, so I just gotta think that up as I go. This is turning out to be a really fun piece. Probably because it's in my comfort zone. I love drawing dragons. If I'm sitting around bored and I can't think of anything, dragons are my go-to, and that's a really good thing to do if you have something that you just love drawing no matter what. If you're having art block, it doesn't have to be something fancy and amazing. Just draw in your comfort zone. There's absolutely nothing wrong with drawing your comfort zone. I think that that's what people end up loving the most from you. If you just draw what you love, people that also love that kind of thing will come and they'll find your art. Sometimes it takes a long time. You got to work at it really hard, but you'll get there. This kind of turned into a pep talk. Unintentional. This brush, by the way, is really, really nice. It's Faux Squirrel by Dynasty. I've never used a dagger brush, really. I mean, like, obviously I have them because this general shape of brush comes in almost every brush set, cheap brush set, but I never really used them much. I always opt for just a flat or a round. I really like rounds. But this brush is very, very nice, and it's holding its shape really well, especially for like a synthetic brush. And I definitely prefer synthetic brushes just because they're not made of actual animals. I'm gonna speed up through the rest of this, or maybe just cut forward, we'll see, because I can't really think of too much else to say at the moment. I'll get back to you when stuff is dried. I think this one has pretty much dried, so I'm gonna try and go in with some blue. I might go in with straight blue. And I want to talk a little bit more about this brush because I know I was just talking about it a little, but this brush is so good. I've never had a brush that held its shape as well as this. And it also holds so much ink. It's ridiculous. And I really like it. So, yeah. The Dynasty brushes, they're good. I don't know if they're high-end or low-end. I don't typically look this stuff up to see whether or not it's worth the $1. Although I definitely recommend doing that if you want to get into an art box. It's just, this was a gift art box, so no need for that. Let's see. I'm really liking these tips, and I think I'm going to use straight blue for the shadow color. Like, I'm going to use the less saturated blue, but then I'm also definitely going to use this just to push those shadows. Okay, back into time-lapse to finish this up to see how the yellow goes on, and we'll pick it up after that. I think a lot of people say ink is really relaxing, which is funny because it's so nerve-wracking to start. Like, starting this piece, oh no, what if I well, like that. What if I make a mistake? That line is way too thick, but that's okay. It just kind of adds to the look. Never beat yourself up too much about art. Everybody's thoughts and opinions about art are different. It's very subjective. And I know everyone wants to get exactly where they want to be and where their idols and stuff are, but the thing is, especially if you're trying to make a profit off of art, nobody's favorite piece is ever going to be the same. And the stuff that people are going to want from you might be different than what you thought. And if you don't want to go that route, that's fine. You say, no, that's not really the type of stuff that I'm doing. But just don't beat yourself up if it's not perfect, because somebody's going to think that it's really great, if not perfect. Basically, I'm just saying what everyone knows, which is that artists are always their own worst critic. Always. Okay, so my favorite thing about this brush so far is, like, look at the way you lay it down and then you pull it, and look at that smooth gradient. It's kind of the opposite on this side, because normally I would turn the paper around, but that's okay. And just like that, we've decided that this side is in shadow. This brush is definitely going down as one of my favorite brushes. I know I keep talking about it, but this is a really good brush. I feel like this guy, even though I'm not going this route, he needs something. So I'm gonna make him a yellow dragon. He looks kind of like a red dragon, but I ain't got red, so... Okay, so this guy turned out really cute too, but I think it's time to move on to the fancy paper and do our final illustration. I've got a basic sketch down now, and I'm just gonna follow the same kind of colors I used in the first practice sketches to finish this guy up. This is now completely dry, so I'm going to go in with the final things that I'm going to do is I'm going to add some straight yellow, and I'm going to go in with the black pen and get some line work and darken some areas, but also I'm going to pull out a white gel pen because I wasn't the best at keeping my lights defined. It's really important with ink to make sure that you leave your areas light that are going to be the highlights, and I tried, but it spread a little bit too much. So I'm going to bring some of that back in with a white gel pen. Okay, I think that is it for this illustration. I had a lot of fun. I gotta say that this wasn't my favorite supplies in a box, but it did come out with my favorite illustration so far from any of these boxes. And I really like this guy, but I gotta say, of course, my favorite is actually the sketch. I went just a little too dark. I still really like the way it turned out, but it went just a little bit darker than I had intended. But that being said, I hope that you guys really enjoyed this, and all of my socials are down below. I upload every Thursday at 8 a.m. PST, and thanks for stopping by.